back to Love Your Food. Today Chef Caleb is going to show you how to make two really simple stocks. We're going to make a chicken stock and a beef stock. And we're going to use two different techniques for that. We're going to make a brown stock out of the beef, and we're going to make a white stock out of the chicken. But please remember, both of these techniques are going to be reversible. You can apply them to the other very easily. We're going to start with our chicken stock here. Simple white stock is as easy as can be. Literally, we've got one ingredient. We've got our chicken bones, chicken carcasses here, and that goes in the stock pot. If you ever wondered why they were called a stock pot? That's why. So we're going to fill that up with cold water. Now please remember, when you're making stock, most of the flavor extraction comes from the change in temperature, so from getting cold to warm. So the longer you do that, the better. So you want to start with cold water. You can see here we've got the heat on under it, but it's not quite simmering yet. You're going to see it get cloudy before it starts to clear like this, and some of the fats and proteins are going to coagulate. Now that's going to make a scum at the top that you do want to skim. So essentially what we've done here is we put it on medium heat just until it just started to bubble a little tiny bit. You never want to boil your stock. That'll give it sort of a metallic, tinned kind of flavor. And once it has reached its simmer, you just want to keep skimming those little bits of protein and fat off the top. If you want, you can keep the fat, set that aside. Chicken fat, also known as schmaltz, is used in a lot of different kind of cooking, so very easy to use that in cooking. But we do want to make sure that we're getting that, we're skimming that scum off the top there. So it's just some of the protein from the chicken. Now we're using chicken carcasses here. You don't want a whole lot of meat. We're not using whole chickens. We're using already butchered chicken carcasses here. And one thing that we have done in the past is we've also added wing tips, chicken wing tips to this. Now they have a lot of gelatin in them. It gives this a really silky mouthfeel to your finished stock. So you can see it's quite hot, but it is not boiling. You also don't want to cover your stock. You want to leave it uncovered. If you cover it, it encourages that protein to mix with the stock, and it will be very cloudy. Now, we're not going to go as far as clarifying our stock. You can. There are ways to do that. We're not going to show that in our video here. But if you want really crystal clear stock, there are methods of doing that. So here you can see it's reduced quite a lot. We've just continuously skimmed the scum off the top there, and we've just made sure that we've got that nice, clean stock. And now we're going to strain it. So we have our strainer over another stock pot. We're just going to pour that very slowly through there. You don't want to go too fast, because once again it encourages the proteins to mix and suspend in your stock, which will give it kind of a cloudy, murky look. Whereas if you go nice and slow, keep it good and steady in there, it's just going to make sure that your stock is a little clearer. The flavor is going to be a little cleaner. It's just going to come out a little nicer. So stock, I mean, we use stock in a lot of different things. It's used in soup. It's used as a flavoring in a lot of things. So you want to make sure you're using good ingredients. You don't want to use trash or peels or anything like that. But a very simple stock like this, very easy. It does take some time, obviously. Now, this took us several hours, and it did take quite a long time, and you do have to monitor it. You do have to make sure that you continuously are skimming and making sure that your stock is good and clean. And there you go. So that's our chicken stock pretty much done. And that's just a really simple stock. Chicken bones, chicken carcasses, and cold water in a stock pot over low heat for a long time. Really economical way. We've used, of course, bought stock. Like we've used boxed stock in a few of our recipes here, just to show you that you don't have to go through this process for cooking if you don't want to. But it's very economical and it really helps. Now, for our beef stock, we're going to add some other things to this. Some celery, some carrots, 1 bay leaf. We have a can of tomato paste here, some onions, and these are our beef bones. Now, we got these from our local butcher. You can normally get them at a pretty good price. What we're going to start with here is we're going to get our onions nice and brown. And this is going to be a brown stock. So we're looking for a really roasty, kind of dark color on this. So we want to make sure that these onions get really dark in that very, very hot cast iron. Now we're going to get the rest of our ingredients here. We've got our beef bones and our carrots and celery. Those are all going to go into our mixing bowl here, and we're going to add the tomato paste. Now, there are a few different methods of adding the paste. Apparently, the most popular is with a spatula, but it's kind of a pain. So this is a little easier. Just get everything all together in one big bowl, and make sure that everything has a really nice coating of that tomato paste before we roast our bones. We're going to get a nice toast on the bones with the tomato paste to get everything a really nice, really incredibly rich flavor in there. So here you go. That's all of our roasting ingredients. So you see our beef bones, the carrots, and the celery all together on a roasting pan, and that's going to go into the oven. So that's going to go into our preheated oven. Our onions are still working there. And we're going to do this. We're going to do it about 10 minutes at a time. So here we go. Here's our onions. These are just about ready. Now, they're going to look very dark. You might even think that I would not use these in a recipe if I saw my onions this dark. But that's fine. The flavor they're going to give, that caramelized flavor in the stock, is going to be amazing. There's our bay leaf. Going to add that in as well. And it's okay if they get cold. That's fine. We're just going to put them in the pot while we're waiting for everything else to roast. So here we go. This is 10 minutes later. Things are starting to roast, but the tomato is still all red. It's all tomato colored still. The carrots and the celery are still unroasted, and we want some color on there before we put all this into the pot. So now's a good time to flip everything. Make sure everything's getting a good even heat in that oven. And when we start adding veggies, what we're looking at is about a ratio of 2 parts onion to 1 part carrot to 1 part celery, roughly, when we're adding. Because they're all quite sweet. But the onions and carrots are obviously a little more sweet than the celery. They add a lot of flavor, but no gelatin. So they're going to add a lot of flavor to your stock, but they're not going to change the texture. So here's another 10 minutes later. We're starting to see some really nice dark brown spots on our bones. Some of these are ready, so we're going to just set these aside. The ones that are poking up a little bit more are a little bit more done. So the rest of them need a little bit more time. So we're under no rush here. We're just going to keep roasting these another 10 minutes in the oven. Move them around, make sure they're getting a nice even heat in there. And get it back into the oven. So brown stocks really use the roasting to impart a roasted flavor, a toasty kind of flavor to everything. So you want everything to be that nice dark color, a dark toast. Anything that's burnt, like absolutely carbonized, you can see here what we've got on the pan, along with a lot of the fat that is rendered from the marrow. On the pan is a lot of just completely burnt tomato paste. We're not going to use that, of course. Some of it is just fine. We're going to pick up some of that on our veggies. But if it is completely burnt, completely carbonized, we don't want it. So we're just going to add that into the pot now. These all seem just about done. Nice and roasty. The tomato paste is all nice and roasted as well. Now you don't really want the fat. So what we've actually done here is we've taken the marrow out of these bones. And again, you can reserve the marrow for other things. So you can pull it out of there with a spoon or a chopstick even. If you leave it in, it will change the flavor of your stock, but it will also add a lot more fat and a lot more scum to skim off the top. So again, we're going to fill that up with cold water. Get a little bit of tomato out of there. And bring that slowly up to heat. So again, you want to make sure that you're putting a lot of time between it being cold and hot. The longer the time is, the more flavor extraction you're getting. And again, this is about as far as you want it to go temperature-wise. You never want it to boil. This is the about the hardest you want it to boil. This is a good stiff simmer. And you get this beautiful, you can see it here, this beautiful dark color on your stock. A great roasty flavor. And you can use this in a lot of different ways. You can use these in soups. You can use them into flavor. You can use them to flavor rice. Soup is our favorite way of using it. You want to make sure it's a little bit cool before you strain them. For a few reasons, it increases the clarity of the stock, and it also, makes it easier for you if the pot's not steaming hot, piping hot. You're not going to splash yourself with boiling hot stock. About half an hour is usually about how much you want to let it cool. And again, pour it gently, and we're not going to clarify this, but you do want to make sure that we're straining as much of that out as possible. And there you go. We have two beautiful, clear, flavorful stocks. Super economical way to cook. And it's not complicated, but it does require attention. You do have to stick with it. So we hope you enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe if you did. And please let Chef Caleb know in our comments if there's anything you'd like to see us cook. And remember to love your food.